Hello guys, this is Avcoor, and this is in the series of team building, and we're going to talk about leadership skills because it's pretty important, and it helps you increase your power outside the normal means of your equipment, your runes, your traits, and this will help you get over the hump that you sometimes experience in power. So let's go into branches of the forest, and I'll explain to you a little better of what I'm talking about. So I'll be the first to tell you that since I started this account late, my power is not as high as other players, but there are ways that I get around it. And as you can see, we're already looking at a leadership skill. There's actually one, two, three available. But since this is a stage for water, we're looking to improve Wave of Water. So how do you improve that? Well, you need more water heroes. So we're going to put in Brownie, who gets us to Wave of Water 2. So we'll put him in. We actually can get to access Wave of Water 4. So we put her in.
저는 지지 않아요.
Lena doesn't have any equipment, but that's fine. And we're going to put Lohane's in. So because we did this, we're actually activating Water Wave 4. So we increase our abilities by 25%, and we deal damage to enemies' protective shields by 40%. Stuff that, as a player whose account is not as strong as other people, I depend on, and I use this to clear this level. But let's look at leadership skills. I can activate 3 leadership skills from this position, and leadership skills actually increase your magic attack, defense, physical attack, and physical defense by 10%, and they give you an added effect. So when we look at Lohane's here, you actually get a 10% increase in damage when somebody is slow. So this is perfect for a water team, which he is more than likely should be a part of. And the requirements is 2 more water heroes. That's what makes Lohane such a great character because of his playstyle as a competent healer and the fact that as an SR character, he comes pre-equipped with a leadership skill, which is pretty hard to find on SR units. Darn hard to find on SR units, really. So, like I said, 10% increase in combat. And so you start to see some of the building blocks of creating a team in Archeland. As if you have this character, you're going to want 2 more water heroes, and you're probably going to want one of those characters to either be a DPS or a tank. So it's with the leadership skill, it's easier to shape your thinking around the team that you want to build. But let's go to Lena, who actually has the same requirements. She requires 2 water units, and she gets increase 15% increase in physical and magic penetration when your HP is at 100%. This is really good because it allows you to build a team where it's more offensive, whereas with Lohane's, you're actually building a team based around a status effect. And she is a little more versatile as all you need to do is top off your units and they can achieve this effect where they ignore 15% of magic defense or, excuse me, or physical defense, which is really good. It makes her an excellent leader. But we also have someone like Ibn Attar. Ibn Attar is a little weird because he doesn't require elements in order to activate his leadership skill. He requires certain classes, and when we get deeper into this, you're gonna look, you're gonna see team leadership skills in a PVE and a PvP way, where someone like Lena is geared to a balance of PvP and PvE, where Lohane's is geared specifically to PvE content, and someone like Ivan Attar is more geared to PvP. And we'll actually look at why that is. Because he gets the same bonuses, but single skill damage increases by 10%. This is really good, and I didn't value it until I started to use this guy more. That if you build him with a single target party in mind, this actually goes a long way. This actually like sometimes if you play this game, you'll notice that you miss kills by a hair, and team leadership skills and the bonuses they provide allow you to get over that hurdle, so you can actually complete those kills or stop your teammate from dying. So when you look at Ivan Natar, I rate him harshly on some level, but if you're really constructive about building a team around him, this goes a long way. Damage increase goes a long way. And this is the power of leadership skills. When you really start to experiment with these characters and look at it, there's a lot of hidden potential underneath. And that's why I was able to clear this, even though my party is like not up to snuff. I used the combination of water wave and leadership skills to give me the stats that I needed. So here's a question, Avcoor. How do I implement leadership skills? Where do I get leadership skills from? Some of these questions are relative, some you already know, but we're going to go through it anyway for newer players. So we're going to go to campsite and we're going to start looking at how you get access to leadership skills. And one thing I'll say, you're going to know who actually has leadership skills because they're pretty important.
아이리스의 바람. 이곳은 영역계 적착업 부서다.
Because they'll always show it right here. If you're curious to who has leadership skills, you look at their equipment skills, you go 1, 2, 3, and you'll always see this thing like a big pimple or some sorts. That they'll let you know that, hey, this character has a leadership skill, and maybe you should look at them because leadership skills are worth the investment. So how do you get access to these leadership skills? Of course, through trades. And you'll always see it right here. You'll go here, 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 and you'll go here and you'll see the leadership skill. And they'll always show who is involved and what characters that you need in order to activate the leadership skill. And they'll actually show you what it does and what is improved. Like with this chick, if you have less than 3 debuffs, you have a 10% damage increase, which makes Gabriel really, really strong because the requirements to activate damage increase is super low. Though I will say in boss battles, it can be kind of difficult because in higher end content, the debuffs come down like rain, and you'll find yourself not being able to activate this leadership skill. So keep that in mind when you look at these characters. And the fact that there are mechanics in her kit that remove debuffs actually supplement her team leadership skill. So it's actually a good thing. So that's how you get access to leadership skills. You actually have to go through the traits, you actually got to pay the gems, and you can get access to a team leadership skill. So I explained to you how you get them, why they're important. How do you construct a team around a leadership skill? What characters have leadership skills? And I'm gonna answer some of those questions, not all of it, because it'll be a long video. But obviously, Gabriel is a premium character. I think she herself is better than the leadership skills she provides because when we go back into it, You're gonna need a wizard and a ranger. And when you look at elemental cores, rangers aren't particularly the most potent unless you're doing PvP. So you can automatically assign her a PvP role with her leadership skill. But as a PvP character, she's like average. She's not a she's not like super premium, but she's not super bad. But if you have like someone like Catherine, you can put Catherine in there, and Catherine actually makes her more potent. Or you have someone like Empty Cicada, aka Seminar, it makes it more potent. But when you start to build your team leadership skill around a team, you have to look at the requirements, and you have to look at the character and what they provide. So let's go down to this guy.
새로운 세계, 새로운 시작.
I'm going to do a video on the three main characters, and you'll find that Sanakin himself is more potent than he seems, because when you look at his leadership skill has the easiest requirements. All you need is a tank and a healer, and in almost every form of PvE content, you're always going to bring a tank and a healer. So this dude is good to go. The only problem is he's always occupying that green slot for you, and if you have him, you're not going to want to use another lightning character. You're going to want to have a fire and a water character. That can be your tank. That can be Valek in this spot. And we'll go into traits to actually look at this. If we really look at this, if a person is ignited, you deal increased damage to them. That's what makes this leadership skill potent yet weak at the same time, because it's supposed to work with Balek, who can always, with her passive, put fire on people. But in most party situations, it's pretty kind of pointless. But the thing about main character is everybody, excuse me, he pairs with, he automatically synergizes the team because he's filling in two roles that are consistent. You're always going to have a healer in the tank, so it's just so easy to build a team around this guy. And that's why I put so much resources into my main character, since my account is weaker. I depend on this guy more than other people do. I play him a lot. And that's because of his team leadership skill and his overall ability. So if you're a beginner, I highly recommend that you just pour some resources in the main character. You'll never regret using this guy. He may not be super exceptional, but he gets the job done. I already talked about Lena.
태어날 때부터 모든 것을 잘하는 사람은 없어. 수많은 실패가 지금의 나를 있게 했지.
Lena is one of those characters who are foundational PvE units because she actually aligns with two other elemental characters. This makes the potency of her leadership skill more, because when you construct elemental cores in order to take on Whirlpool, in order to do the high-end content that we have now, it's better that you have elements instead of characters, so to speak, because when you're building a team, you want as much flexibility as possible, and the requirement is always elemental units of the same type, and this makes these characters so much more potent. So Lena and the other characters that we'll talk about are very potent for that reason. So we already talked about Lohanes.
앉으시지요, 청년이여. 자신에게 시간을 좀 내어주고 마음의 목소리를 들어보십시오.
He's a poor man's Lena in that fact. If you can't get Lena, he's the next best thing. And I recommend those guys who have like low resources and don't spend money to invest in Lohanes, because he's just that good. On a budget, he's amazing.
기사의 영광은 세월에
So
퇴색되지 않는다.
when we talk about Richard,
그대는 나
we're talking
레오나트가
about a
줄곧 기다려온
dedicated
동료인가?
PvP unit, even in his overall construction. When I see this like wizard thing, I'm thinking Catherine, and when I look at this bow, I'm thinking about Silva, Firebow, and that's all he needs to activate his leadership skill, which is pretty important. But this guy likes to be in tight corners, so you get a 10% increase in damage inflicted by allies in like 2 squares of him. So the strategy behind that is you just want him to activate his passive. You want to get guys close to him, and then you want to let it go. But I think other characters like Silva actually provide a better leadership skill than him. And you'll find in PvE content that I've been test running Richard, and I'm ultimately satisfied with this guy. That in PvE content, this is not hard to achieve, especially when you get Erica and Lena. This is really hard to. This isn't that hard to activate, and you'll find that this guy has so many uses. This leadership skill is better than it looks because in PvE content you would like to bunch up your characters at times in order to fight long battles. So this is really good.
이 흑매왕의 어전에서 간언하려면 내 인내심이 바닥나기 전에 끝내는 게 좋을 것이다.
I already talked about Ivan Atar, but like I said, single target skill damage increased by 10% is a lifesaver. And when you look at this, you'll find that Ivan Atar works really well with Sighart, as Sighart is a pure single target damage dealer, and him being able to provide that buff for him makes him pretty good. Any healer will work. So in PvP, I think this is good, but I also think this is okay in PvE content. It's just the fact that Ivan Atar fills up a slot. On some level, his leadership skill is better than he himself. But if you make him work, he works really well. Like I said, Sighart,
용사들이여, 검을 들고 우리의 용기와 결심을 선포하라. 그 누구도 침범할 수 없다.
Sighart is a premium team leader, as his team leadership skill is the building blocks of a fire elemental core, as is him and 2 fire units, so it's pretty flexible. You can put any 2 fire units in there and this will activate. And damage done by active attacks in battle increased by 10%. It's one of the best ones in the game, and Sighart makes pretty good use of it. So all 3 of the beginner characters make really good use of their team leadership skills, and I'm glad to at least get 2 of them. I really want Nola for that very reason. Yeah, this is really good. It's not really that great in PvP content, as you really don't want 3 fire units on the same team unless you put Valek and Silva there. But Sighart holds the team back himself. His leadership skill is better for PvE content.
세상 만물은 인과를 따르지만 넌 이 세상에 속하지 않는군. 이 변수가 대륙에 어떤 영향을 미치든 내가 꼭 지켜볼 것이다.
Well, Ig is another great character who has a great leadership skill, as she requires an assassin and a healer. This healer slot to me is pretty much empty, since you'll always have a healer in any party that you use unless you run pure rush, and I haven't seen that yet in Archeland. So this is an empty slot to me. That means this is only really one character that you got to worry about filling. And the fact that 10% damage, if you have increased mobility, you have 10% damage, is pretty flexible. Sighart actually can increase his own damage, so this is really good in PvE and PvP, but she's not that explosive in PvP right now, as other characters are just more dominant.
고개 숙이지 못.
So we'll look at Susie and
내게
Susan.
준 신뢰가 내 옆에 동생보다는 많아야 할 거야. 보여? 내
Susan
언니의 집착은 정말 무서울 정도지.
are really important characters for their they're really good characters for the simple fact that 15% increased damage when attacking targets with more than 3 debuffs. They're the perfect team leader for dark teams. And when I look at it, I'll probably have to rank them a little higher on my PvE chart because I have been using them more with greater effect. Catherine and her are consideration because I talked to someone on YouTube and he made a great argument about Catherine. But if you make a great argument about Catherine, you also have to make a great argument about Susie and Susan because this leadership skill is important, especially for World Boss. I think this is really good for World Boss as debuffs really help you survive World Boss. So I think this is really great for World Boss and PvP. It's not as potent as there's fewer dark characters that are really used in PvP. I think Catherine is the most premier PvP dark unit, and behind her is Alicia, and then it'll probably be Susan. Susan. So that's a consideration to think about. So we get into SRs real quick.
외로움은 치유하기 힘든 병이야. 내게 관심을 가져 언젠가는 별빛처럼 빛나게 될 거라고.
I'll probably have to turn silence on this when I do these videos. But anyways, the thing about Armand is we have like budget elemental leaders. Let me check. Let me off the top of my head. It's him, Nicholas, and Lohane that are the 3 budget elemental leaders. And this is important because if you're not a paying player and you don't get access to premium characters, these guys will fill in those slots for you. So with his unique leadership skill, you have to have like current on in order to do extra damage. And that's okay because he has ways to put current on. And if you have a lightning team, you have opportunities to put current on your opponent, but it's pretty trash. It works really well with Sanakin, as Sanakin's unique weapon requires current to be on the opponent to get extra effects. And I guess that works. But if you're using this guy and he relies on current, Nola's better because she has like so many ways to put current on the opponent. She just totally outclasses Armand, and that kind of sucks, but it just is what it is.
내
This
앞에서 그렇게 긴장을 풀 배짱이 있는 건가?
this character is really weird for the fact that her activation is so easy. When I see these little slots, I think they're empty because all the best characters are female, save for like Richard. Who else is what other male character is good besides Richard? Sighart. The 2 lions are the best male characters in the game. So this is like totally easy to achieve. It's kind of weird that we're in like the waifu meta. Yeah, that we're in the waifu meta. In every game that I play, it seems it's waifu meta. So increased damage done in combat with non-feet. This is so easy to achieve because oddly enough, most of the enemies are not female. So if you're on a budget, Layla is actually a good investment if you're not trying to spend money on the game. And coming to another safe
교실에서
investment.
수업하는 거 지루했는데 그대가 와서 다행이야. 드디어 정당한 이유로 밖에 나갈 수 있게 됐어. 별의 탑을 참관하러 온 손님을 맞이하는 게 상부로부터 받은 임무니까.
Nicholas is like I said, the budget fire core team leader. And if you want to build a fire core and you just don't have money, this is the way to go. I mean, he's got good skills. He has healing skills, and you do damage to the target with the ignition buff. Notice that with Armand, Nicholas, and Lohane, these are characters that the devs designed for budget players because each of them has a quirk in their leadership skill that requires a status effect of the element they produce in order to get the damage increase. So just consider that when you're playing at a low budget that these characters are really good. Out of them, Armand is actually the weakest, as Nicholas is actually a competent player. And that's it for the SR leaders. So let's go into the, and we'll look at the rest of them that I don't have. So we'll go into glossary. We'll go to heroes, and we'll look
새로운
at
세계,
the
새로운 시작.
ones I don't have. Like Nola.
단달리온 메신저 놀라입니다. 수령하셔야 할 새 편지가 하나 있어요. 바람 때문에 분류해놓은 표시가 날아가 버렸어요. 돌아와, 민들레야.
As silly as she sounds, Nola is actually a very potent PvE unit, and her leadership skill actually increases the damage from crits, which is pretty good for lightning-based teams, which is even better than what Armand does, so she totally outclasses him, which kind of sucks. But if you're looking to build a lightning core, Nola's the way to go. I actually prioritize her over Ig because it's just easier to meet the requirements for a lightning-based core because you only need 2 lightning heroes, so there you go. Jean.
실버 드래곤 시간의 주인 아이비스의 수호자. 모두 허명일 뿐 그대 앞에서는 그저 진일 뿐이다. 그녀가 사소한 집착 때문에 잘못된 선택을 하는 걸 수없이 보아왔지.
Jean is
방관자의 무력함을
it's
그녀는 알까?
oh my gosh. Jean is the requirement for Jean is to have 2 females. That's all he needs, which is to me, like I said again, empty. As the best healers are female. Like 2 of the best tanks are female. Like most of the best DPSs are female. So it's not hard for you to meet the requirements of this dude's leadership skill. And he does damage when they're in 2 compartments of him, which is pretty darn good. So Jin actually has a lot of potential, but just not executed properly. And if you want to maximize his potential, he just needs a certain team, and then he's really amazing. But when we go to Silva,
이런! 폭발 용량 조절을 잘 못했어요. 내가 전만큼 노력을 안 하고 있나 봐요. 이러면 안 되는데 말이지요.
alright, when we look at Silva, we're looking at one of the best team leadership skills in the game, especially for PvP. I would say the best team leadership skill in the game for PvP, as her skill basically says, if I hit somebody, I deal fixed damage to them. And this is amazing in PvP. Her skill is amazing in PvP. The fact that you can deal fixed damage after AoE, she ushered in the AoE meta as it is today. And I will admit I was one of the many people who derped this character, but I didn't know. But now that I know, yeah, she is very, very, very efficient. And she requires a tank, and she also requires a warrior. So it's easy to meet those requirements to get her stuff going. So let me see. Out of that, we only have no. They don't have leadership skills. Zelda doesn't have a leadership skill. All right, so we only have 2, and we'll just go out of there, and we'll talk about Electo and Coil because for whatever reason, they decided to give 2 characters on the same banner a leadership skill, and I don't understand why that would be the case. Especially as broken as Coil and
영웅이든 귀신이든
as broken as Coil and Electo are, they decided to give them leadership skills for whatever reason, which is pretty dumb to me. Okay, so you only need like a warrior and a tank, which is pretty easy to meet because when you're looking at that, if you flip it around, that's an elemental core. That's a water tank, and that's Charlotte. That's Charlotte. So yeah, that's pretty good. Um, this is what makes it even better for a water core because You have increased damage caused by having a slow or bleeding type effect within 3 compartments, and increased penetration. That's busted. So Ivan Attar and Lena, and when you're looking at Cat, she automatically gives like slow. So that's an amazing skill. This is kind of a reverse water core skill, and it's really good for PvP as well. No wonder Coil is so good. There's a lot of stuff about Coil that's just really good. Yeah, that's really good. That's absolutely amazing. Let's go to Electo real quick, and we'll end the video. So Electo is one of those other busted PvP characters, but they decided for whatever reason to give her a leadership skill, which she really didn't need, because Electo's a character that you want her to supplement a strategy. You don't want her to be like you're building a team around Electo. You don't need to build a team around Electo. Electo literally carries the team. She doesn't need a team built around her. So basically, this is 10. When your HP is 100%, you get 10% increase in damage. Very generic, very good. So this was this is actually really good, especially when you look at that. I think Silva right here, and when I think Silva, I think like yeah, I don't see the point of her having a leadership skill. I just don't see the point because the people that she wants to play with have better leadership skills than she has. But this is a really good leadership skill. When you have max HP, you deal 10% more damage. So it is what it is. They even gave her freaking late bloomer. I mean, just so busted of a character, so busted. But that's it, guys. Team leadership skills are just there in order to increase your stats and narrow your strategy for better team building. Never ignore the power of team leadership skills and what they can provide, and I promise you, you'll start clearing content that you otherwise thought you couldn't because you've really planned out your team and your strategy. But anyways, if you like my content, hit the like, share, subscribe button. I'll get back to you. Have a great day and goodbye.